In Lagos, when thunder forgets itself, elders say that iroko holds its breath. On this afternoon, the High Court held its breath too. Justice Teo Richards raised his wooden gavel high as if to hammer fate into the skull of the day. "Evelyn Hart," he began, voice steady, robe heavy. "This court," a door banged like a gunshot. Head snapped. A thin man in a rain-stained blazer stumbled in, panting, beard uneven, eyes bright the way street kids' eyes are bright, half hunger, half prophecy. "Don't send her to the dark," he cried. "She's innocent." The clerk dropped a pen. A woman whispered, "Yesu." The gavel trembled in the judge's grip and hung, undecided, like a hawk over water. The stranger raised a cracked phone bound with a rubber band. "My lord, I bring sight to blind air." He spoke like a person who would learn to survive by telling exactly the truth a breath before being beaten. Evelyn stood in the dock, wrists stiff, a black head wrapped tight as a vow. She was money famous, yes, the kind who signed checks that made newspapers polite. But just then, she looked like a girl who lost the road in Belogan Market and could not find her mother's palm again.
"Name?" Justice Richards asked, frowning not from anger but from carefulness. "Peter Shaw," the man said. "Why should this court listen to you?" "Because I was there, in the unpainted skeleton beside their house when the story turned wicked." Two court officers slid near him like shadows with uniforms. He didn't flinch. "I pressed record when men who were not guests became thunder."
The judge let the gavel down like a man lowering a sword he might still use. "Let him speak." Lagos' breath moved again. Reporters sharpened ears. Evelyn's lawyer, Sophia Dale, closed her eyes, like prayer had teeth. Evelyn gripped the rail. Her lashes glittered with tears she refused to let fall. Peter swallowed. "That morning, sir, the sun rose as if it was late for work. I slept in the uncompleted building beside the mansion. Hunger, not loyalty, put me there. But my phone, this poor orphan, saw what God allowed." I told the court the short version. 2 men, a kitchen, a flash of steel, blood writing a lie on a fruit knife. "If you will watch, my lord, truth will stand up on its own legs." Justice Richards nodded once. An IT officer conjured a cable, like a priest lifts a bell. The phone hummed, the screen at the front flickered. A mango tree leaned into the frame. Concrete bones made a window for fate. A timestamp blinked like a steady heartbeat. "Play," said the judge. The room leaned forward as one body. Outside, the city chewed traffic. Inside, the ancestors pulled their stools closer. Before blood argued with tile, there had been oranges. Evelyn stood in a white kitchen, slicing citrus for her husband, Marcus Hart. Good shoulders, tired laughter. Juice glazed her fingers. Over the hiss of the gas, an old quarrel breathed like a sick bellows. Honesty, promises, a rumor coiled like a snake in their bedsheets. "You told me you were done with him," Evelyn said. "I told you I'm fixing it," Marcus replied, palms up. A man trying to make a bridge out of air. Love was in the room, yes, but so was Lagos. And Lagos does not allow love to rest without payment. Outside the fence, a hawker sang bread into existence. An Okada muttered past. A generator cleared its throat somewhere far. In the skeleton next door, Peter lay between rebar and wind, listening to the soft language of footsteps that don't want to be heard. 2 men slid through the side gate like eels in black water. One wore a cap low enough to harvest shadow. The other kept touching his phone the way a thief counts charms. Delivery men? Their eyes said no. Peter's stomach turned. He lifted his cracked phone, thumbed the red circle, and breathed shallow. The kitchen gathered quiet like a shawl. Marcus took one step. The back door stuttered. Two strangers kissed the room with violence. Evelyn moved without thinking, her body choosing before her mind. She slid between blade and husband, a thin fruit knife still in her hand, bright with orange oil. Chairs scraped. A pan chimed. The man in the cap lunged. The other barked a sentence that smelled like money. Marcus fought, strong, not skilled, muscle against calculation. The knife flashed. The world hiccuped. Blood learned the shape of tile. Evelyn screamed with her whole throat. The fruit knife clattered free. A hand like a trap caught it, warmed it in red, and flung it near her knees like a snake shed of guilt. "Hold her," the cap said. The other bruised her arms, and then, as sirens woke somewhere, both men evaporated the way Lagos men evaporate when the night police whistle. Peter's hands shook, but the frame held, faces, posture, a glint. The small, cruel smile villains forget to polish away. He stopped recording only when the quiet returned and the house remembered what walls are for. He hid his phone in a shoe like it was a heart. He knew the city's favorite sin, to fit the wrong story to the right face. And a billionaire's wife is both a target and a screen. Even the sky seemed to agree.
The room arranged itself around it the way worshippers arrange themselves around a drum. The first frames shivered, then steadied. Concrete, mango leaves, the back door. Two men moving like a wound you can't find the edges of. Someone gasped a name under their breath. Someone else hissed, "Shh," and meant it. "Pause," the judge said when one face offered itself fully to light. The clerk's thumb froze the frame. You could see pores, a scar like a punctuation mark under the man's lip, eyes that had learned how to keep secrets inside their pupils. A reporter whispered, "Chai," and wrote the same word 3 times. Sophia Dale's jaw tensed. Evelyn bit the inside of her cheek until taste turned metallic. Justice Richards leaned forward with the patience of a man listening for rain. "Do you recognize this person?" he asked the room. But mostly he asked the ghost of procedure. The registrar brought a printout. The IT officer magnified the still. "My lord," the registrar said softly, "if this is clear, it resembles Toby Kane, alias Kano, and his partner, Desmond Pike." A murmur rose like harmattan dust. The judge tapped the bench once, like a drummer sampling a skin. "We will take names from evidence, not from gossip," he said, eyes sliding to Peter. "If the rest clarifies, the law will put names in the correct mouths." "Play," he said again. The story finished itself without exaggeration. Marcus shouting, Evelyn's scream gathering the edges of the room into a blade. The jerking force of struggle. Red where red never belonged. The smear on the fruit knife, executed with the efficiency of a practiced lie. When the clip ended, silence lay heavy enough to break a chair. A woman in gele sat down because her knees could not be trusted. Justice Richards spoke like one who refuses to be bullied by breath. "We will identify these men through proper channels. We will test the integrity of this record. Until then, we will not confuse shock with conclusion." He was about to gavel the moment when a police officer slid through the door with a paper that had sprinted all the way from the station. He read it, his eyes altered by half a shade. He looked up at the frozen face, and then at the living faces, and said the sentence that changes oxygen. "This changes everything." Outside, a newspaper vendor shouted headlines he didn't yet know. Inside, the ancestors nodded to each other like, "Yes, the path is opening." But in Lagos, every opening invites a foot you didn't expect. In the corridor, during recess, whispers chased each other like lizards on a wall. Who is Peter Shaw? How did a man with a phone become a key? Lagos builds myths between one traffic light and the next. But myths sometimes begin as diaries written in hunger. On the stand, Peter told what he never told policemen, because policemen rarely have time for slow pain. He said, "Once, I wrote code. Cameras listened to my fingers. I had a wife, Tessa, who made jollof that conquered sadness, and a daughter, Phoebe, who corrected my English like her mother taught her. People smiled where they could afford it." He continued, "I noticed anomalies in a logistics network tied to Leonard Blake's companies. The name put glass in the air. Blake, the rival to Evelyn in whispers and contracts, the man whose parties had fireworks the police politely ignored." He breathed. "We reported what we could, then a fire chose my house." He did not cry. Some wounds refused the stage. I walked out with smoke in my lungs and a phone in my palm. After that, Lagos taught me the art of sleeping where steel is patient. He looked at Evelyn, just once, as if to apologize for being the wrong kind of savior. "I didn't come because I am good. I came because I am tired of sleeping under men who bend the map with money." Sophia Dale asked the questions the law needs asked. Chain of custody, edits, metadata. The IT officer confirmed the video's spine was honest. The room inhaled. Justice Richards, who had seen Lagos dress lies in choir robes, still kept one eyebrow raised. Then Blake's counsel arrived like cologne in church. Too strong, too late. Barrister Carlton Miles stood, tall and polished, and smiled the smile expensive schools give to boys who don't need them. "My lord," he purred, "video is theater. Theater is beautiful and rarely true." He lifted documents with manicured fingers. "Here are bank transfers, 5 million naira, into Mr. Shaw's account 1 week before this miraculous footage emerged. Money has a smell, and this one smells like rehearsal." The court gasped the way markets gasp when someone shouts, "Thief!" Peter stared at the paper as if it were a bird asking to be believed. "I've never seen that money," he said, voice iron and ash. "Check the source. Check the timestamps. If I'm lying, let me be buried where the lagoon eats wood." Justice Richards did not blink. "We will. Adjourn till tomorrow. The Financial Forensics Unit will run through these records with their teeth." The gavel fell once, twice, thrice, like a mother calling a stubborn child home. As people spilled into corridors, Lagos put the story on its head and spun it like a plate. That night, the city behaved like a rumor. Fast, messy, inventive. Online pages wore Peter's face like a borrowed hat and argued, hero or hungry? Evelyn lay on a thin mattress in a holding cell, not handcuffed, but not free. She closed her eyes and remembered Marcus's laugh before the world learned to charge interest on joy. She whispered the names of her parents and the names of the saints who answer to any name if the plea is sincere. Across town, in a room cold enough to suggest power, Leonard Blake sipped water as if victory were dissolved in it. "We planted the transfers well," he said to no one in particular. A man in a cap nodded from the wall, shadow stitched to him. "If the judge is stubborn," the cap asked gently. Blake smiled, not with his mouth. "Then we will teach him the language of pressure." On the pavement outside the court, Peter curled in his blazer underneath the awning of an abandoned shop. He spoke softly to a photo in his wallet, burned at the edges, faces still brave. "Tessa, Phoebe, I'm close to something that isn't grief." He fell asleep under a rumor of rain. In the hour where Lagos taxis turn into ghosts, a woman in indigo walked past him. She was old the way mountains are old. Without apology, she paused. "Omo," she said in Yoruba, so clean a child could drink it. "The road you walk eats men who forget they were promised to ancestors." Peter awoke, startled. "Ma?" She touched his shoulder with 2 fingers, as if measuring his temperature against destiny. "When you enter the lion's mouth, greet his dentist," she said, and was already missed again. He sat trembling,
the way a person trembles when the city speaks with the accent of the river. Morning came with sirens and fried plantain oil. The court filled before the sun finished buttoning its shirt. Evelyn stood straighter. Sophia adjusted stacks of paper like shields. Barrister Miles wore a suit that had opinions. The financial forensics unit took the stand. A woman with short hair and that particular government weariness explained calmly. The bank records were over-clean. Metadata showed tampering. The origin account dissolved under scrutiny like sugar poured into Tide. Gasps. Then stillness. So Mr. Shaw did not receive $5 million? Sophia asked. According to our analysis, no, the analyst said. The transactions were retrofitted like a bad spare part. Blake did not twitch. Men like him practice stillness the way drummers practice wrists. Justice Richards breathed out, almost a sigh, which in Lagos means a man has decided to fight longer than his sandals would prefer. Proceed, he said. And Providence, which arrives late to avoid photographers, knocked on the door in the body of a young man with shame written on his face like Biro. State your name, the registrar demanded, voice sympathetic to none. My name is Adrian Blake. His eyes flicked toward the accused dock where his father sat like a lion who did not believe in bullets. The court became a drum skin pulled too tight. You are related to the accused. I am his son. A ripple of prayer and scandal moved through the gallery. Evelyn's fingers found a rosary of air. Peter stared, not breathing. Justice Richards' gaze weighed the boy as one weighs cola before a visit. Adrian swallowed. I came to say what I should have said months ago. He looked straight at his father, and grief twitched at his mouth. He hired Cano and Pike. I saw the envelope. I saw the messages. He told them to finish the man and stain the wife. When Mr. Shaw's video surfaced, he ordered me to structure fake transfers to destroy him. I did it. Pain rolled across the room like a slow bus. I have proofs, screenshots, logs, the original drafts of the doctored ledger, and voice notes he forgot were recording. Barrister Miles shot to his feet. My lord, this is theater. Adrian opened a folder and spilled truth onto the clerk's table. Timestamps, server traces, the smell of oversight. The IT officer plugged them into the court's arteries. The screen coughed up messages with Blake's tenor, casual, arrogant like a man asking for suya. Make it look like charity. Make it look like hunger. Lagos will believe hunger. Someone in the gallery began to cry without sound. Mr. Blake? Justice Richards asked softly, the way a shepherd speaks before the cane arrives. Leonard Blake lifted his chin, eyes iron. Fabrication. Family betrayal. My son has been fragile. Adrian didn't look away. Fragile is what you call conscience when it refuses to sit. He turned to Peter. I am sorry. The words were so simple they shook the ceiling. The judge moved like a man wading into a flood. We will admit these into evidence. We will give the defense a rope to inspect them properly. And we will continue. He faced the room. Understand this. Lagos believes in spectacle. But Lagos must learn to believe in procedure. My mother did not raise a coward. The last sentence was not in any manual, but it steadied the walls. Outside, the mango tree in the first frame dropped one fruit. A child picked it up and ran. Inside, Evelyn finally let a tear fall. It fell not like defeat, but like a seed. Peter pressed his palm to his jacket pocket where the photo lived and thought, Tessa, we are not lost. The ancestors in indigo nodded from wherever they stand when court is in session.
And that is where we leave the story for now. The city of Lagos has already shown us how fragile truth can be when power and money try to bury it. Evelyn stands accused, her husband gone, and a homeless stranger with nothing but a cracked phone dares to challenge the mighty. We have seen how lies can be dressed in fine suits, and how even a son can rise against the shadow of his father when conscience refuses to be silent. The lesson so far? Truth may walk slowly, but it never walks empty. And in a land where corruption tries to bend every mirror, sometimes the smallest witness, like Peter, can shake the tallest pillars. Courage is not about having riches or titles. Courage is standing up with nothing but your voice when the city demands your silence. But the storm is far from over. If you think Leonard Blake will surrender quietly, think again. In part 2, masks will fall, hidden ledges will rise, and bullets will fly in the night. Loyalties will be tested, the judge himself will stand in danger, and Lagos will learn that justice is not won in a single gavel strike. It is fought for again and again. Stay tuned. Watch out for part 2 and prepare yourself for betrayals, revelations, and a battle where even hope itself will tremble.
Thank you so much for watching this story. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to like, drop your thoughts in the comments, and of course, subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories like this. Share it with your friends and family too. It really helps us grow. Until next time, stay inspired and stay blessed, DI besties.